welcome to another MWC Short. I'm Karen Bowman from the content team, and I'm delighted to be joined by Amrote Abdallah, who is Regional Director with Microsoft for Africa, to discuss one of this year's biggest themes, which is Industry X. Welcome, Amrote.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much for joining us, dialing in remotely. I think you're dialing in from Kenya today.
Correct, from Nairobi.
From Nairobi, excellent. And we were due to take part in a panel discussion on Mobile World Live that was going to be an all-female lineup, which is very exciting. Industry X is traditionally quite a heavily male-dominated area, but it's really exciting to see people like you and Delisa Alexander from Red Hat that were due to take part in this panel. So I just want to go ahead and get straight into some of the questions that we were going to discuss, talking about the idea of Industry X, why it's such a big theme, what Industry X means to you as well. So as the regional director of Microsoft's 4Afrika initiative, you're spearheading a lot of the investment for Microsoft across the region. You've worked a lot with startups in the past, and it's a really exciting area at the moment for innovation and new developments. So I'd love to know what you're finding at the moment, what kind of trends you're seeing and what you're getting very excited about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. So as you said, I lead our 4Afrika initiative. I'm based in Nairobi, and our sort of mandate spans across Africa and stretching even into Pakistan. And across the board, what we're seeing sort of from where we were about 7 years ago, where there's quite a lot of focus around sort of just devices, services, application drives. Today, you're seeing quite a bit of innovation that's happening in different areas and different sectors. So there's one in particular that, in Africa, we're really trying to harness and foster around agriculture and really understanding how do we actually bring forward some of the old traditional sectors that we have that do have sort of a high employment rate, but also sort of that are critical to the growth of the continent as well. But as we're looking at sort of the new technologies, whether it's around ML, IoT, AI, there's definitely a stronger interest, especially from governments that are trying to digitize and drive a bigger adoption of technology across the board. And when we look at sort of the transformational capabilities of some of these solutions that are coming up and about, not only are they bringing forward sort of new solutions, but it's also literally sort of leapfrogging into a new area of customer base, a new service delivery method, but also an empowerment level that's also happening at the community levels that we're also finding.
That's really exciting. You mentioned leapfrog. I know that's a word that comes up a lot when you're talking about technologies in Africa. That, I guess, that does make it very exciting and lots of innovation, because you are able to leapfrog different stages or different technologies.
Absolutely. But also, when we say there's definitely a lot of emphasis around leapfrog, but it's not just sort of the notion that, we're now a mobile-led continent. It's not that. It's really beyond that, right? It's the ability to be able to sort of provide and bring forward services that otherwise would not. There's one company that we worked with recently. We published their story called Sahat Kahani out of Pakistan, right? And it's bringing medical services to underserved communities, but not because the services are new, but it's a new method of delivery. It's about empowering women and driving sort of, remote working and changing the landscape around how women doctors are able to engage, but also continue to deliver value on a profession that they had committed so many years to. And so when you look at that and looking at sort of what is new, it's less about the service itself, but more about sort of the capabilities and the new insights that you're bringing, whether it's around healthcare, whether it's around education, and also around agriculture as well.
Excellent, thank you. So we talked a bit about healthcare there. You also mentioned education, agriculture. When we talk about Industry X, I guess we're talking about a lot of different technologies. It's
correct.
Everything. It's IoT, robotics, AI, blockchain. But what do you think Industry X means in African context, that region? What are you seeing particularly? Which areas, I guess, are the most exciting in Africa at the moment?
Look, I think it's all quite exciting, right? Because you can frankly look at Africa and say that this is an opportunity for us to really draw what will be the future. But in terms of an uptake and where we see it quite a bit, definitely IoT, I think, has a very strong opportunity for us to be able to drive forward a lot of the digitization. If you look at our manufacturing base, or even sort of the renewing interest and investment that's going into some of the sector. The second one is around AI, and I say that because there's quite a lot of data that is being harnessed in Africa by Africans, of Africans. And so when you look at sort of the consumption trade, where you're seeing the growth in some of these sectors, I think there's definitely a lot of power in being able to drive, but also drive data-driven policy that can actually make changes as well. So I definitely believe, especially based on what we've already been able to generate, but also where we can go, I think AI definitely has a very strong opportunity to be able to transform Africa.
Absolutely. And I think data is something that's, really
100%.
key
Yeah,
to all of those sectors. I want to ask one final question.
tell me.
What do you think? I mean, I hope we'll see you. I hope you can join us next year in Barcelona at MWC 2021. What do you think we need to be looking out for, not just next year, but even beyond 2025, looking very much to the future? What would you be looking out for, and what do you think we'll be talking about?
Look, so let me speak on this side of the world. In the next 5 and 10 years, I look at sort of where governments are aspiring to take their countries, but I also see this budding sort of young entrepreneurs that are coming up and about, and there's a lot of discussion around innovation and what it should mean and the pressure to sort of create jobs. And I believe fundamentally that technology really has a role to play in being able to either create a platform or facilitate some of the growth for some of these sectors. But ultimately, I really hope that the conversation would be around new technology and what we're able to drive forward, and less about sort of filling the gap for what's already missing, whether it's around services and some of the basic sort of, I think, SDGs that we're really looking at across the continent. So my hope and aspiration as in Africa is that we will be able to sort of really look at some of the newer thinking, but also just adoption, and but also creation of technology as well, right? And I hope that in 10 years time, by 2030, as we look at this, that will be the conversation that we'll have, and that we would have had a higher penetration around internet and connectivity, and more Africans being able to get online to drive productivity, but also driving commerce as well.
Excellent. I'm sure we'll be discussing a lot of these topics at the M360 in Kigali in Africa. Thank you so much, Amriti. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
me.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Karen.